This is Scott. How's it going? I'm sorry I posted this video without audio the other day. I was tired and making bad decisions. So here we go. As you can see on your screen, this is Google Earth, which is a free download for anybody that wants it and works on any computer, I'm pretty sure. I even have it on my iPhone. But what we've loaded up here is the route that Flight 19 took and was supposed to take. So I'm going to zoom in here and show you guys where we're at. But first of all, you can get a sense of that's actually true north. It's oriented towards north now. You can see how North America is actually at a kilter there. So I'm going to zoom in down to Florida. All right, so you can take a look down here and you will see this is Florida. There's the Florida Keys, which was possibly thought to be what he got mixed up. Here is Cuba. And right here is Grand Bahama Island. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more. And let me just turn on my borders and labels so you can get some more information there. All right, so here is the Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station, now the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. I misspelled international there, but I'm not going to fix it right now. So here is where they were supposed to take off from for their navigation problem number 1, which is represented by this bright green triangle. And I'm going to go into detail here on what that route was supposed to be. They take off from the Naval Air Station here, which isn't here anymore, but we're going to zoom in and take a look at it. And you can see how close it is to the ocean. Pretty cool. All you have to do is take off, and I'm using my hands. I'm pointing to the screen, and you guys can't see that, so that's dumb. Anyway, all you have to do here is take off and fly straight out to sea. Seems pretty straightforward. And when you look at the airport here, what you can see is this section here is all that's left of what was originally the Naval Air Station. These are all expanded runways and buildings and obviously these terminals down here. But when you look at the old pictures of the Naval Air Station, this is still there. And the airstrips went along this little triangle right here. So they were that way and that way. And it was just like an X. We don't know what runway they took off on. We haven't been able to ascertain that information, but this is about where they would have gone from. So they go out to sea here and they travel about 56 nautical miles on a straight line, almost due east, to Hen and Chicken Shoals. So that's about here, which you can see ARC researcher who put this together, if I didn't mention him already, Martijn Hogendoorn from the Netherlands did this for us. But you can see here is the Hen and Chicken Shoals where they were supposed to practice their torpedo bombing runs. So I'm looking here at that part of the route. That is Hen and Chickens there. It's actually not marked. I'll zoom in and show it to you guys. Very small little island. Not even an island. And that was where they practiced their torpedo runs for about 20 minutes. And they were probably doing some circling and that sort of thing. And then they would get back onto their route. This would be considered from here to here, leg 1 of navigation problem number 1. Now, here's something really interesting. If you look here, you can see North and South Bimini, and down here is Andros Island, which is where Bruce Gernon took off in the electronic fog episode. And I believe that airstrip was down here somewhere. Let's take a look. I'm not sure if it's still there. Yep, that's it right there. That's where he took off from, just south of Congo Town. At the time, I think it had a different name. And he was flying from there. His plan was to go from there straight to Bimini and then up to, I believe, Palm Beach International Airport, or Palm Beach Airport. But he ran into trouble on his way here because that storm was right about here. And he wound up changing course, and that's when he got spit out down here just off Miami International Airport. So you can see how close the proximity is between what happened to Bruce flying from here to this way, and this is the main part of the Bahamas, as Forrest was mentioning, which is different from Grand Bahama Island up here. And you can see that navigation problem number 1, the bottom leg of it, would come right in line with where the storm was that Bruce passed through, even though this was decades apart. But still, it's interesting. So leg 1, they're bombing Hen and Chickens shoals. Then they get back for leg 2. They go from here to Great Stirrup Cay, which I can't remember. I think it's about 70 miles. But here's the cool thing about Google Earth. You can actually measure. So you want to see here, it's nautical miles from Hen and Chickens to Great Stirrup Cay. It's about 65 miles. So that would be where they would have gone. So now they're supposed to turn here to this northwest bearing, taking them to Great Sail Cay up here. And this would have taken them over Grand Bahama Island. Now, taking a look at that island, it's a pretty good size. It should be hard to miss, especially at a low training altitude. Several people have asked about the altitudes they were at when they reported higher altitudes later. It's our understanding that they would have trained at 1,000 feet, but probably moved up when they realized they were lost to get better range on the radios, or hopefully, and also to be able to see further to the horizon, because the higher you go up, the more exponentially farther you can see to the horizon. So they're supposed to fly up here to Great Sail Cay. Again, that is around 72 nautical miles, which is exactly what we said, I think. And when they get here, they are to turn again on a bearing, taking them back to Fort Lauderdale. And they would complete, this is now the 4th leg, because even though a triangle has 3 sides, this would be leg 1 from here to here, leg 2, leg 3, and leg 4. And the wind was coming out of the south-southwest, blowing this way out to sea, 31 knot wind. So when they would come back this way, they'd have a pretty serious headwind probably. And going up this way, and this will come up later, they would have a crosswind blowing on the port side or the left side of their aircraft as they travel north. So then they're to return here and return to Fort Lauderdale, the whole route being about 310 nautical miles. This last leg being the longest one at 120, I think. Was it? Yeah, about 120 nautical miles. Or statute miles would be just under 140. So they come back down, and that's what Flight 18 did. It did all of this and had only taken off just 25 minutes before Flight 19. However, Flight 19, and we can't be sure, and I want to make this clear, this red line is the route that we think they took. It's not entirely clear, and the further out the red route that you get, the more speculative it becomes, especially this last part. That's just full-on speculation. But because he reported that he wasn't sure where he was, we are able to kind of piece together a possibility. As you can see right here, this is 4:25 p.m. Martine put this in here. He actually put 2 of these, but I'm just going to click on one of them. Taylor said, both my compasses are out, and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I am over land, but it's broken. I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down I am, how far down, and I don't know how to get to Fort Lauderdale. That was at 4:25 p.m. So here, if he's not trusting his compasses, there's this possibility that he is looking at Little Abaco, I believe that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not sure, island, or some of these little islands here, and thinking he's over the Keys. Now, the interesting thing about this is we have to think about what altitude they're at, because you think, oh, well, that doesn't really necessarily look like the Keys. But right here, if you look down in this corner, you can see that my altitude is 66 miles. They were at around anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 feet. We're not sure, but let's just zoom in to that altitude here. I'm coming down 14,000 feet to the 425 reading, which again is an estimate. So here's 2,000 feet. Obviously, all we can see is water. So what I'm going to do is tilt the camera like we would if we were in an airplane, and it's going to point down the route that we think they took. And there is what you see. This strip of land right there. Now, from that altitude, or even a few thousand feet higher, it's still going to be similar to the Keys. and I'll show you why. Let's zoom back out here. I'm going to straighten this up. Bear with me a second. I hope you guys aren't getting sick. This makes some people sick, this animation. Sorry, excuse my phone there. That was Lori Williams texting me, who's going to be on part 3 of Flight 19, which we haven't yet recorded. All right, so I'm zooming back out. Back up here now, we're at 165 miles. Let's take a look at the southern tip of Florida. I'm going to go even further. And here's the Keys down here, where Lieutenant Taylor was stationed and flew for several years on submarine patrol, presumably looking for subs maybe that were having secret liaisons in Cuba or something like that. And you can see how deep there's a drop off here, so this is good territory for the submarines. But when you come down and you look at the Keys and you think about some of these islands, even the dry Tortugas out here, you could see where if he was at a super low altitude, he might think that's where he was if he wasn't trusting his compass at all. I'm going to zoom in even more. You can see how these islands look. This is at 21,000 feet. Let's just say we came down to 4,000 or 5,000 feet like he did, or probably was at. And you take a look around here, and if you're flying and this is all you see, this and the Abaco, if I'm saying that right, islands, look pretty similar. But it's hard to know, and that doesn't explain the much bigger question when we come back to looking at navigation problem number 1, which is, how could he possibly have thought, taking off from this airport straight out to the ocean, that he had in fact gone way down here and wound up out there? It's really hard for us to understand. We're going to be talking about that in theories. Nevertheless, so we indicated how here he says, I'm sure I'm in the Keys. And then at this point, at 4:45, he indicates we're heading at 030 degrees. Sorry about that. 030 degrees for 45 minutes. Then we will fly north to make sure we are not over the Gulf of Mexico. So what's happening here is he's going north, but he thinks maybe he's down here. And if he's down here, he needs to go north or northeast to find Florida. But up here, that's not a good plan. Now, we continue to fly. Let's see, is that this one? This is where we had the 5 o'clock quote. If we would just fly west, we would get home. Damn it, if we would just fly west, we would get home. So looking at that, it's true. If that's where they were, if this is where they were, if you believe any of this at all, if they'd have taken a left turn here at Albuquerque, it's Warner Brothers reference, they would have gotten back to Florida. They had plenty of fuel to do this. They had a 1,000-mile range. This whole problem here was only 310 nautical miles. So even after flying this far, they should have had plenty to get back. Up here, we're not exactly positive. This is when it gets really speculative. So don't take this line as a literal representation of what Flight 19 did. It's hard to say beyond, I think the best guess you can make is here when he says, I think I'm in the Keys, I see broken islands. After that, this is all guesswork. Let's see, there's no radio call associated with that, or down here, I think there is one, 602. We may have to ditch any minute. When this is an early ditching warning, based on the amount of fuel they should have had, which is another thing that's interesting. This is the fix we talked about that the radio stations got down in Miami based on information from other radio bases. And the fix would have had a 100-mile radius from this point out. So taking a look at that, and I think that was statute miles. You would come out about to here. So if this was this big a circle, that's as good a range as they could say they probably thought they were at from that fix. 604, sorry, let me turn off this ruler. 604, holding west course, didn't go far enough east, turn around again. We may just as well turn around and go east again. Again, here we are. They actually were going the right way, and it seems like they might have turned east. This is Taylor. Turn around and fly east until we run out of gas. I think we would have a better chance of being picked up. What course are we on? We're over the Gulf. We didn't go far enough east. How long we been on this course? I suggest we fly due east until we run out of gas. We have a better chance of being picked up close to the shore. All right. So then you can see if this is what's actually happening and they're heading due east somewhere from this fix. All this part is speculation. They may have zigzagged more. They may have gotten closer to shore. They could have separated. But whatever happened, if they'd have gone due east from this point till they ran out of gas, they would have wound up on a course for Bermuda and probably ditched out here in the middle of the ocean somewhere in 50-foot seas and high winds. This makes sense, this path, if they thought they were over here in the Gulf. They'd got turned around, they couldn't trust their compasses, and that really bothers me. The international is misspelled, but I'm not going to fix it. Okay, so they could have turned east, and they would have hit Florida, but they didn't. They headed out to sea. And when you think about how far they would have had to go to hit anything, it would have been Spain or Portugal. So they just wouldn't have made it. And that's pretty much the crux of what we have ironed out here. And I'm sorry that I didn't post this with audio the first time. We do have a KML file, which is a Google Earth type of file that will load all of this into your version of Google Earth. But I'm still trying to figure out how to post it. I've been working on that for an hour, and I got to break off now to get back to research and writing. However, it doesn't have anything that you can't see here. Thanks so much for listening, and now that we know how to do this, we'll be able to do it again in the future. We'll see you next week.